Hi guys. So last week I gave you a whole set of ninth arpeggios, a whole different set of families of different types of ninth arpeggios in a PDF. So what I'll do is I'll attach that PDF to the description of this video as well, so you can just download it from here. But what I want to do this week is just talk about how you go about using these arpeggios now and how you can get the most out of them. So what I'll be doing is I'll be touching in some of the theory behind chord substitution. I'll show at least one approach to this as well. And then we'll actually apply that, and I'll take some of those ninth arpeggios and I'll use them over different chords so you can actually hear this in action. So let's start with the theory. So traditional chords are built out of stacks of third intervals. So if you look at a C major chord, for example, you'll see it contains a C, which is a root note, and then above it, it's got an E, which is the third above C, and then the third above that is G. So that's the first note, the third note, and the fifth note. And you can just continue with this process as well. So you could add the seventh note, and the seventh note above C would be B, and that creates a C major seventh chord. And then you could add the ninth and the 11th and the 13th, so you can see how the chord builds up. But if you look at this whole stack of thirds, inside it, can you see that there's kinds of groups of other chords hidden inside this huge chord as well? So an example of this would be a C major seventh chord, which has got four notes, but hopefully you can see inside you've got that C major, the three notes of the C major chord, but also mashed in there are three notes of an E minor chord as well. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to use our ninth arpeggios, and we're just going to see how they layer on top of existing chords as well, and whether that gives us useful sounds that we can play with. So let's start with a simple example. We'll start with that C major seventh chord. What can we do with that? Well, how can we use ninths over the top of that? Well, one thing we can do is just turn that into a C major ninth. We just add that extra note on top, that D, and that creates a C major ninth, which is one arpeggio that we can try out. The other thing we can do is to create a five note grouping by adding a note below. So this creates an A type arpeggio, okay? And if you have a look at those notes, you've got A, C natural and E, so that's an A minor, and this arpeggio in total, if you look inside it, is an A minor ninth. So that's another arpeggio that we could use. We could try the A minor ninth arpeggio over the top of a C major seventh chord. So let's try both of those out. Okay, so hopefully you can hear I've got a C major seventh pad going on in the background. Yeah, so let's try that major ninth arpeggio. Not too surprisingly. This just kind of fits, yeah? Let's try that A minor ninth. There's my A. And that works pretty well as well, yeah? Okay, so let's try something a bit more complicated. Let's see if we can create something that sounds Lydian. We'll try and create a Lydian scale sounding chord and set of arpeggios. So what makes a C Lydian sound? Well, it's a major scale, so it's like a major seventh, but it has that sharp 4. It has an F sharp in if you're playing using C major seventh, or a sharp 11th is the other way of thinking about this as well. So we can start with that kind of that C major and turn it into a sharp 11th kind of a sound, and there's that sharp 11 note there. Okay, so that gives us a stack of 6 notes. So how do we apply our ninths to this? Well, one thing we could do again is to use that first ninth arpeggio. You can see it's got a C major ninth inside there. So that's an obvious choice that we can use over the top. So what else can we do? Well, it'd be nice to try and emphasize that sharp 11 sound as well. So if we use the ninth starting on the next tone up, starting on that E, then you can see that overlaps, that includes that sharp 11 as well. Yeah? So let's give that a go, and if you have a look at that, you can see that that is an E minor 9 as well. So that gives us a couple of arpeggios that we can try over that Lydian sound. Let's see how that works. Okay, so this time I've got that Lydian sound going on in the background. So this is that major sharp 11th kind of a sound, yeah? And again, we can just use the major ninth arpeggio. And again, this works. But doesn't really have any Lydian quality to itself because it just doesn't have that sharp 11th in there. So let's try that E minor 9. There's that sharp 11. So hopefully you can hear how that brings out much more of that kind of Lydian quality to the background. Okay, so let's try a different chord then. Let's try A minor 6. So this is a little bit different because we've got that 6th degree in the scale as well. So it's not obviously following that theory of stacked thirds here. We've got a 5th note and then we've got the 6th sitting right on top. It's not the 7th. Okay, so how can we deal with that? Well, the nice thing about 6ths is if you rearrange them across the octaves, you can see in this case I'm playing A minor 6. That 6 is F sharp, and if you look at F sharp G A, it's just a third below the A. So if we rearrange the notes, we can create an arpeggio which is stacked thirds starting from that F sharp. So let's start our first ninth arpeggio based on that F sharp. And the arpeggio that you get from that, starting on the F sharp, is an F sharp minor 7, flat 5, flat 9, which is a bit of a handful. Okay, but we've got that shape in our list, so let's try that out. And the other thing we can do is we can go one note below that as well. So if we go the third below that F sharp, we see we've got a D. And if you look at the notes and the ninth starting from that D, using all of those chord tones, you can see that this is a D9. So there's another arpeggio that we can try. So again, let's just try both of those out over that A minor 6 and see how they sound. Okay, so this time we've got that A minor 6 in the background, that chord. So let's try that F sharp minor flat 5, flat 9 arpeggio. And again, we can try that D9 as well. Let's see how that sounds. so let's try one more example then. Let's try C7, a nice simple-ish kind of a chord, C7. What can we do with that? Well, obviously we can build something up from that C root as well, and that would be a C9. So that's one candidate to try. And the other thing we can do is we can do like we did before. Let's try the chord tone below. Let's try a third below and build a ninth from that. And if we do that, we end up with an A minor 7 flat 9 arpeggio. So that's another thing we can try. And then what I thought is let's start with that C7 and let's try building the arpeggio up from the E. So we're kind of stacking above that C7 this time. And when we do that, we end up with an E minor 7 flat 5 flat 9. So you can start to see how we use some of these more obscure sounding chords when we start doing this. So let's try those three out. Right, this time we've got a C7 going on in the background. So there's our chord. So let's just try the C9 arpeggio. So not too surprisingly, that just works. How about the A minor flat 9? So there's my flat 9, there's my A. Go find it. Okay, how about that E minor 7 flat 5 flat 9? Okay, so hopefully you can start to see the process here. All we do is firstly we find a chord or something that we want to play over the top, a chord or a scale, and then we start fitting ninth arpeggios over the top of it and just see how you can layer those ninth arpeggios to sort of emphasize interesting notes or interesting parts of that chord. And then we try it out. And like everything with music, there's no real right or wrong, there is just whether it sounds good to your ears or not. So the thing to do is to test this stuff out, hear it against a chord and see what it sounds like to you. So anyway, that's it for this week. Give it a try, see how you get on with it. Hopefully that was useful for you and we'll chat next time. Goodbye.